On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, The Athletic does not like the name Avalanche. Let's talk about it on a new episode of Locked On Avalanche.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. If you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Colin and I one-on-one. Get your opinion, everything Avalanche related. Share it on this very podcast, like we will do in our second segment when we are continuing our season grades. This time with Jonathan Drouin is our season grade. So that'll be a interesting conversation. And if you're listening to this on Friday, May 23rd, that is the final day of ESPN's Around the Horn. So we're going to discuss that because why not? It's the off season, and it's going to be the end of the road for Around the Horn. Are we upset about that? Do we care? Is it a bigger issue for ESPN than they want to let on? We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. But where we're going to start, sir, is like we said off the top, in the grand scheme of things, this means nothing.
Oh, it means everything. What are you talking about?
I was going to say it means nothing, and it means everything. And when you know the Athletic has done this before, where they do like kind of fun things like this, and that's really all it is. But when you have like the team that you root for just slapped in the face, you're like, nope. I talk on a podcast, and I am going to bring this up because I have thoughts and I have words. So what they do is they have a poll of team nicknames just in the NHL, not logos, just team nicknames, and they updated it because the Mammoth came out with their name, so they wanted to have a new one, and here you go. So they rank them all, and they did a fan vote, and then they had two of their writers. I think it's McIndoe. Yes, Sean McIndoe and James Myrtle were the two that gave their 2 cents on this. So they had their ranking and then the fan ranking, and then I don't know if they averaged them out. However they did it, came up with a 1 through 32. And where they had the Avalanche kind of like I just kept scrolling. I'm like, all right, they're out of the top 10. To me, it's a top 10 name. And I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and I went a little bit more. I got to almost the end of this list here, and I finally stopped at the Avalanche at 22. They have the Avalanche ranked at 22, sir. And the funny thing about it is the fan ranking has them at 6.
Deserved.
So the fans know what's up.
Mm-hmm.
The fans know a good name when they see one. These two guys, and I like these two writers, I really do, but they're
I used to.
They give a little blurb here. I'll just read it for you. So McIndoe says this. So I should say at 21 they have the Hurricanes, and for both of them, they don't like the fact that it's like a natural disaster that they're named after. So okay, but so McIndoe says the same as they just wrote for the Hurricanes, only this one is also singular. So they don't like it because it's singular, which I think is more creative. You can come up with a singular name instead of a plural name. And then Myrtle says, I remember hating when we went from the Nordiques to this, but it's grown on me a little. Points for the ice theme. Points deducted for sounding like a roller hockey team, though. That part doesn't make sense to me at all. But give me your thoughts, sir. How angry are you at this?
Oh, they're dumb. That's silly. Like again, you want your team to sound fierce and ferocious and powerful. I mean, there's only so many. I mean, look at college sports. There's only so many Tigers and Bulldogs that you can possibly have. Like, so what? It's a natural disaster. I grew up around natural disasters.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't, hurricanes don't bother me. Good grief. A town I grew up next to They were called the Tornadoes. The high school team, they were the Tornadoes. And that every other year, that town was hit by a tornado. They kept the name. It's okay. Avalanche, it feels like hockey. Like you hear Colorado Avalanche, you know what? It's an ice-related sport. Like a lot of these other teams, like if you hear like the Tigers, Detroit Tigers, tell me what sport.
Snooze. Yeah.
Like the Lions, the Detroit Lions. What sport? You had no idea if you just dropped here and you heard those names. If you hear Colorado Avalanche, you're like, oh, I bet you this has something to do with a winter sport of some kind. It's putting you in the right spot. Same thing with if you just got the logo and not the name, you knew this is a ice related sport. So I think the name is wonderful. So pish posh to those.
Yeah. I'll never forget like when the first time that I saw the like on the ice. I was watching SportsCenter. I was 15 years old when it was their inaugural season, and it was like I was watching SportsCenter. It was their first game, and I knew it was happening obviously because it was in the news. But that was a different time in the mid 90s. You didn't have the internet and stuff like that where you could see like what the uniforms like looked like just at the snap of your fingers. So for me, that's what part of the allure of the Avalanche to me was the name.
Yeah,
it was. I was a Broncos fan already, and so I knew they were getting a hockey team. And when I saw it on SportsCenter, and I had just said Avalanche and the whole uniform, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like everything. Maybe it's my 15-year-old impressionable brain of like the Avalanche to me was an awesome name. It's part of the appeal for me when I was 15 years old, no lie. But the other part of this that kind of like just rubbed me the wrong way of teams that they have above them. Like, come on. Like, well, first of all, if you're wondering where the Mammoth are here, they're 19th. So they have the Mammoth, which everybody kind of agrees is just a ho-hum name. They have that above them. And so the two writers ranked the Mammoth as 11th. The fans I seem to know what's up, have that as 26th.
That's much better.
Yeah. I'll give you, because I'm sure people are wondering like, well, who's number one? Number one is San Jose Sharks. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that is a nice name, rolls off the tongue nicely. You know, even with the color scheme is great. 2 is the Detroit Red Wings, which yeah.
Okay, look, that it's honestly like I get it. We have a rivalry, we have the history, but I think it's literally the dumbest name.
Doesn't make sense to me. Like it's fine in the grand scheme of like the history of the sport and everything like that, but we can't just go throwing it at the top just because of that reason. No.
Yeah, you like, especially like if you're trying to convince your friend, let's watch hockey. Let's go watch a Red Wings game. A what? A Detroit what? What is a Red Wing? Oh, but it goes back to the history. No, I don't need an entire 30-minute documentary on why your team name makes sense. Like Red Wings, like what are we? Is this like a racing league? Like what is going on here? I think it's dumb. I really do. Always have.
Number 3 is Montreal Canadiens. 4 is the Boston Bruins. 5 is the Pittsburgh Penguins. 6 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7 is the Vancouver Canucks. 8, I'll do the top 10 here. 8 is the Buffalo Sabres. 9 is the Vegas Golden Knights. And if you listen to this show, you know I am not fond of anything Vegas. The one thing about Vegas I don't mind is actually the logo. I think the logo is okay.
Logo's cool.
I don't like the color scheme that they have, but I think the logo is fine. I think they do a good job with the logo. But the name I have no time for. I think I think that's just, and I guess there is some history behind it, and I'm sure someone wants to comment away in the comment section. Feel free to remind me, and it'll go in one ear and out the other because I just don't want to retain anything Vegas for too long, or I'm going to have an aneurysm. But the Golden Knights name, I just feel was just, we're just going to throw this in here just so we can get this this thing called hockey going in Vegas.
It's too long because you don't know if you want to Las Vegas Golden Knights or Vegas Golden Knights or Vegas Knights. Like, you don't know what you're adding or taking away.
Yeah, and then just to round out the top 10 is the Calgary Flames.
Nah.
So that's your top 10. So I don't like Vegas at all ahead of them. And just going down a couple more at 12, they have the Florida Panthers. Talk about boring.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's just ugh. And they have them overall at 6th. And again, fans 24th.
Yeah.
And for the Panthers, it's like you came out the same year as the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Great name. And you're the Florida Panthers. Like, that's just
and those debut jerseys were rough too.
Yeah.
They were just they were not great.
And I think a name that everybody seems to generally like, for me, like the Seattle Kraken. I thought that everything about that reveal was great. They have them at 15. So I feel like that's a little bit low.
Yeah, and I don't know why the Kraken is so low, and I don't know why they are not like the biggest fans of the Penguins.
Well, they had them 5.
I think it's
which I love. I think,
you know me.
I love that
top
logo.
3.
Yeah, I love the name. I love the logo. Everything about it is great. And it was kind of similar. The writers had them at 6. The fans had them at 7. And if people are wondering who is at the bottom here, do you want to take a shot in the dark?
The Blue Jackets.
That's what I thought. They are 28, believe it or not. But I'll give you the last 2. I'll give you 31 and 32. 31, Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
32, Minnesota Wild.
As God intended.
Yeah, I don't. McIndoe just had one word: awful. So I don't know. I
don't go look into the logo for help.
No, yeah, because that just confuses you even more. Yeah. So again, this is kind of just like a fun thing, and hey, it's the off season, so we can kind of talk about fun things like this. But I wholeheartedly disagree with them, and I'm glad the fans at least see the value and the importance of it to throw them at 6th overall, because it just completely wipes away these two guys' opinion on it, if you ask me.
And I'm kind of disappointed they didn't address the dumbest thing in hockey that we revere for some reason. Why is an entire fan base rapidly obsessed with Leafs?
The Maple Leafs, mean?
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome name.
I don't.
I think it's solid.
I think it's doo-doo water.
No, that's
it's like, I get
Canadian.
I get the history, like all that stuff, but like if iconography, like it's your leaf versus a panther versus a knight versus a shark, and you're cheering for a leaf.
A maple leaf.
Oh, I can't. Oh, let's embody the spirit of the maple leaf.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I'm literally rolling my eyes.
I'll say that one final thing about the Avalanche. I always say this: could have been much worse as the Rocky Mountain Extreme. That would be 32 on this list.
Or the Cougars.
The Cougars wouldn't have been too bad. The Colorado Cougars alliteration, it's okay, but again, not like Avalanche has like pizzazz to it. That's got that's a name. Rocky Mountain Extreme is just you were going for the 90s crazy era and trying to cash in on that. And then Colorado Cougars is just, again, simple and doesn't move the needle at all. That probably would have been low if they went with that, it would have been low too. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of the Avalanche, and it's not Aves either, or Avalanches. So get that right too.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about one of these players on the Aves, and that is Jonathan Drouin and his season grade, and we will do that next. Let's talk about Monarch money. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? I know I don't, because I buy things like this replica 2022 Stanley Cup ring. And Kyle, you spend your money on gaming systems, as all, I was gonna say middle-aged men. You're not there yet.
No.
Should do. But we know where our money is going, obviously. And if you are wondering where your money is going, then you have to go check out Monarch Money. and the Monarch Money app, because between dining out, shopping online, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track of where your money's going. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. The code is LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off of your entire first year. Go check them out today. All right, sir. So another grade that we're going to get to here, and that is Jonathan Drouin. A little bit of a difficult season for JD here, and we're going to get into a pretty good conversation, I'm assuming, here about not just his grade this year, but where did the Avalanche go from here with him? Kind of just going over his stats. 43 games played. That will probably come up here in another minute or two. 11 goals, 26 assists for 37 points. He was a +4 overall. Doesn't get penalized all that much. Only had 6 penalty minutes. Played a good amount. Time on ice was over 18 minutes a game. 2 game-winning goals. 37 points for 43 games. That's not bad. But it's the 43 games that's the sticking point. So if you're watching over on YouTube, let me get the right background up here. Here we go. All right, there's your grades, and how you're saying the Mackenzie Blackwood is the Fonz because it's all A's. We're gonna call this one the summer school. Remember the movie Summer School at the end where he's there's only like 10 seconds left. He's going C. So that's what I struggled with this, Kyle. I was going back. Same thing with like Ross Colton, where I was like, man, I could go anywhere in the C department. I had C- on here for a little while. And shortly before we hit record, I changed it to a flat C. I'll go into my reasons in a minute, but I'll throw it over to you, and you can explain why you gave him the same grade that I did.
He makes it difficult. He really does. Because last year you had like 56 points and 79 games. This year, half of that. And the points just weren't there. And honestly, and we'll get to in a minute with a lot of the subtexters, like he is the Kyle Gass of the Tenacious D when it comes to, like, he has to have Nathan MacKinnon to be reliable or effective. Because if not, he's Ringo. Like he's like John Hall. Like it's like, what do you like? He doesn't have that pop and pizzazz that he started out in the league with, that you thought he could find, but now he's just relegated to being like an accompanying act. And it's frustrating because this lineup, you got to ride the hot hand. We say this so many times with these episodes. And if the hot hand doesn't mean Drouin gets to play with his best friend, BFF, Nathan MacKinnon, it's just a ghost show, and it's just not great.
And were we not saying that? Everybody was saying that when he came over here. Get him with MacKinnon, put him with MacKinnon, not just on the same team, on the same line. And which to me at the time was a little confusing because it's like, well, he hasn't done anything to warrant putting him on a line with Nathan MacKinnon.
True.
But when he was, you saw results from him, and it took him a little while to get going, and that's completely fine. But now, like, it's like, where do you find a spot for him in that world of with Nathan MacKinnon, or, you know, not even if it's not Nathan MacKinnon, like even on a second line, where do you find it? Because if everybody's healthy, he's not in your top 6.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because he's shown that, you know, if he's not in your top 6 or if he's not playing with Nathan MacKinnon, it's a struggle for him to put up points. And sometimes even the first part of that is true. If he is with Nathan McKinnon, sometimes it's a struggle for him to put up points. He was on that when Mikko Rantanen left. They slotted him in for the power play, and he didn't really get much going on that. And if you can't do that, then it's just, you know, what is your role? What is your expectation on this team?
And it went from like get him with Nathan McKinnon because they're going to work well together to where it almost anchors Nathan McKinnon a little bit to where you're not getting as much production as you want. Yeah, it happens. And then when it does strike, everybody's like, see, this is what we're talking about. But then when he's logging part-time hours as a player and he's there for half the season, you can't just kind of shrug back in and say, hey guys, I'm back. Let me get back up here. And when you have everybody else healthy, contributing, it's just like for what he brings money-wise, it's fine. It's doable. Right. But let's not overinflate his worth because of his best friend's Nathan McKinnon. Like, yeah, let's be real here.
So let's see. So what did he have? So 56 and 79, 56 points in 79 games last year. And then, like I said, 37 and 43. So he was on a better pace this year. More points per game. He's at 0.86 points per game this year. And he was 0.7 last year. But the big but here is he only played in those 43 games. Like, that's another problem, is like the injuries here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and it's so tough to just say like, oh, I mean, it was just a fluke. Number one, when you play in the Colorado Avalanche, it's never a fluke. And, you know, he's got a history of it. He's got a history of some injuries here. So it's like you said, you mentioned his number. You mentioned, you know, if they do want to bring him back, it'll be again at another low number. Am I completely against that? I'm really not. And it's weird for me to say that, despite everything I just said about, like, if he's not playing with your best players, he might struggle a little bit. But at the other end, like, you can get him for cheap and just hope maybe that he can find a role with those bottom six guys. Is it a possibility? Yeah. I could see, honestly, this going either way. I could see them saying, like, we know you're not going to be with your buddy, and our top six is pretty much set as long as they're healthy. We don't have a spot for you, and then moving on. And I can see them saying, like, hey, it's not going to cost us a lot. We don't have a lot of money in the bank, and we know pretty much what we can get from you, or hope that we can get from you, and bring him back for another year. But the other thing that needs to happen is playoffs. Got to produce in the playoffs, which he didn't give you anything. I think he gave you 3 assists total in that series with Dallas. So again, it was a rough year for him injury wise, but I thought he did pretty good. I thought he had when he was in there, I thought he was good. Thought he was good enough. But he's got to be in there more. He's got to stay healthy, and you've got to produce in the playoffs. So I'm at a loss over where this actually could go for the Avs this offseason.
The conversation needs to be, when they're working on this deal, you sit down and say, hey, top six is locked and you're not a part of it. Can you find your footing without Nathan McKinnon? Because it looks like you're going to be on the outside looking in. And if not, do you think you could find success somewhere else? Because you're going to be playing bottom six. Is that okay with you? And we're going to pay you like bottom six.
All right.
So you can't keep saying, yeah, you are a great addition for Nathan McKinnon. No, we have a roster full of that. Yeah. And it's either step up or see if you can find that money elsewhere, because you're getting bottom six pay.
Exactly. So we have some thoughts from the subtext crew. So we want to bring those up. We're going to, let me change this all around here. So yeah, we'll get one more break in. When we come back, we'll get the subtext thoughts on Jonathan Drouin and say goodbye to Around the Horn. So we'll do that next. All right, thoughts from some subtext people on the Jonathan Drouin grade. We got Lisa, giving him a C for average. He missed a number of games, but he was okay when he was in. He was a little bit shy of a point per game. I'd say he was proficient. If I gave pluses and minuses, which she does not do, because she's a teacher, so she does apparently. And didn't she say, like, in Pennsylvania, like, they don't give pluses and minuses or something like that? I don't remember what she said, but Could be. If she did get pluses and minuses, she would consider a C+ for him.
I agree with I don't think we give pluses and minuses.
No,
So-
I do. Well, you mean like in the state of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, as a teacher.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm going to just say flat C, but Lisa's onto something. Like he was okay.
Yeah. Shorzy says he's basically the only guy at this moment who's an automatic trade block guy for me. Middle of the road grade, knock points off for not producing the amount he was expected to when brought in. I can't fault the guy for an injury. He performed decently in 23-24, putting up what I'd call a good third line energy with potential for second line. But even then, the experiment with putting him on the McKinnon line failed miserably. He just doesn't have the energy for that line. I don't agree with that. I think his energy is fine. I don't go down the road of like saying guys don't have like the effort and stuff like that. I'm okay with his effort. It's just production. And I think when he is with Nathan McKinnon, you see more of it. You really do. He's just and a lot of that is Nathan McKinnon.
Shorzy brought up a point like, okay, let's say they do keep him around. Does he have value? Bottom 6, Jonathan Drouin. If we do need to move him, if nothing's happening, does he still carry value when he's not tied to Nathan McKinnon?
Well, how about this? Do you bring him back knowing the Avalanche always are injured? And you might need someone to bump up in the roster and in the lines. And like we're just saying, when he's doing that, he seems to be okay. So is that a reason why you bring him back? And just hope that, hey, he's been here for 3 years now, going into next year. And if we got to have him settle in on a third line right now, he's had 2 years with these guys, so he should be okay. But one of those guys is going to be Chara Coyle for this year. So it's a little bit of a wrench there, but you know what I mean? Like there's options for him. And you can't just say like, hey, we're going to put you in a bottom 6 role and expect him to stay there the entire year because the Avalanche just get injured, walking to the arena.
Well, I'll hit you with the Super Uno reverse card.
Hit me.
That's what the Eagles are for.
I guess. Are you really like, there's not,
you're
there's
getting
not
about the same. And you need to,
you're not.
You need to
man, look at his points, man. Like
you
when
need
he's
to,
there,
you need to start bringing something out of Loveland, or you need to bring something out of the Eagles. Because like if you're going to keep 1 year, 1.5 Jonathan Drouin, the Matt Nieto 2.0 deal, like eventually you've got to start calling up. The Eagles are getting stagnant, and you're really not getting anything that's surprising you. And to carry him around bottom 6 with the hopes and just planning for injuries, I don't know if that's really productive either.
I'll say that he gave you 37 points in 43 games. I don't know of any. I'm trying to think of anybody in the Eagles that would give you 37 points for an entire season.
You wouldn't know because we haven't tried.
Just throwing that out there. Christina said Drouin was just too inconsistent for me. He had his moments, but when it really counted, he wasn't there. Would rather take his cap hit and apply it to more depth or try and get Nelson for 1 more year. With Landy back, I just don't see a need for Drouin. It's kind of like what I was mentioning. Like his role is going to be diminished next year. And like you said, if he's okay with that and you can get him at where he was, I think it was 2.5 last year. If you can get him at that number, I'm really not going higher than that. I'm sorry. I can't. But if he cycles back for that amount, I would think about it. But again, like I said before, I think this goes either way.
Yeah, I get what Christina's saying, but I would say just stick it like 1.5, stay there. You're not the subtraction of Drouin is not going to help you bring Nelson back.
Yeah.
So if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do.
Next for our season grade will be 33 games and as part of a big deal trade. Jack Drury. So we'll get Drury.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be. I don't know if we're gonna have a Monday show because it's a holiday, but if it's either Monday or Tuesday, that'll be the next one that we do. All right. Wanted to wrap things up here with kind of a big moment in the world of sports entertainment and television, and that is the end of ESPN's Around the Horn. 23 years. This show, that's crazy to think about,
Yeah.
that this show's been on for that long. And I just kind of felt like, again, if you listen to this show a lot, I am not the biggest fan of ESPN. And I have not watched Around the Horn. I think I've watched it 2 times in the last probably 15 years, if you, like, to be legit. Maybe 10. Like I got away from it. Like, I was big into it when it first came out. That hour of television with that, and pardon the interruption, was like that was to me appointment viewing.
Yep.
And as I just grew out of ESPN, I just gravitated away from it. It no longer was, but I still appreciated the value of Around the Horn. And look, 23 years is a good run. Everything comes to an end at some point. Locked On Avalanche will come to an end at some point. Hopefully it's 50 years in the future, and we can pass this down to other people. But everything that starts comes to an end. But I love things that have staying power. Yeah. You know what I mean? I like the things that 23 years is awesome. Saturday Night Live having 50 years, I love stuff like that. Some people don't. Some people like change, and you got to always see the new best thing, newest and best, and newest and greatest. That's not me. I appreciate that. And while I didn't watch it, it is a little sad that it's ending. And not only that it's ending, the way that it's ending.
Yeah.
ESPN just seemed to up and cancel this thing with no real rhyme or reason, in typical ESPN fashion. And I thought I don't get it. I don't understand the reason why. But even though I didn't watch it, oddly enough, I'm going to miss that it's just not around.
Yeah. And Around the Horn is, it's not exactly what it used to be, but it's still a great format and one of the better, livelier conversations around the world of sports on the daily news topics that ESPN had. And it was a great way to cycle in new talent and new voices. And it's a great way to address the topics, and to go to PTI, the two established voices. It was a great 1-2 punch for your afternoon of sports. For it to be canceled, especially with Mariotti saying there was more in the tank, they were still doing really good ratings. It's confusing. It's almost like ESPN is preparing for a restructuring of things, which has needed to happen. But it's sad to see, because I remember watching the first couple episodes and being hooked, and you watching that in PTI, and then Stump the Schwab later.
Loved Stump the Schwab. Loved it.
that was my nights. So it's
just
kind of sad to see it go away, but it's good that it's kind of going away now, instead of when people are saying, why is this still on? It needs to go away.
And I think that's part of it, is it didn't get to write its own ending.
Yeah.
It didn't say and everybody, it's got a host that everybody loves. Reality is just Tony Reali is just it seems like a nice, down to earth, fun guy, knowledgeable guy. And it was a sports game show, you know what I mean? In a way. And it was almost like the sports version of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Almost.
Where the points don't matter. You know what I mean? The points really didn't matter. I didn't care who won. Nobody cares who won. You just tuned in to get good debate, not this ridiculous screaming and yelling that you get from some other people on that network. But they gave you a handful of topics. It wasn't just one topic for a half hour that we just keep coming back to. Throw some fun things out there. And I think that's part of the reason why it's upsetting a lot of people, is because it didn't get to write its own ending. ESPN came in and just said nope, we're canceling it, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Because if they came, like you said, if they said, you know what, 23 years is still a good run, but say they made it to 30, all right, we're going to wrap this up. Let's pass something else on. But ESPN, even with Mike and Mike went on for 15 years or something like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And then that kind of imploded as well. But
I will say, this going out the same year that Inside the NBA, the NBA on TNT, Shaq, Chuck, all that also going away. It tells you that sports television is changing.
Changing.
So, I mean, they still have life in the tank. Like if you saw the goodbye from Ernie and everybody, like you're getting the same thing from the Around the Horn crew. Like
Mhm.
it might be goodbye, but might be see you soon in different formats. So keep hope for that. But it's just weird to see these columns of sports fading away.
I don't think we're going to get stuff like this anymore. It just
No.
because like you're not going to get that show that survives for 20 years. You're not going to get the show that survives for 10 because it's like the way things are now is just things are changing and what's new, and you wear out your welcome after like 3 or 4 years now, and people will tune you out, and you got to hit them with something fresh and something new. And I think that might have been part of it. But like you said, like they seem to say like the ratings were fine. If ratings are dipping, I get it. You gotta do something, but it didn't seem like that was the case here. The other part of it is like I tried looking up, I didn't see where ESPN said what they were replacing it with. So I don't think they've announced what is gonna right now. It's just gonna be Sports Center. So I don't know what they're gonna replace it with, but I'm pretty sure it'll be terrible and nowhere near as entertaining as Around the Horn was, but that's just the way ESPN operates right now.
Well, if you need to fill programming, just put ridiculousness on there.
Oh, God. That's one show I've never watched, except for just like viral clips that but I've never tuned into that episode. So a weird day. But again, like I said, hadn't watched it in years, but appreciated what it's like Rush. Like I don't like the music band, the music that they make, but I appreciate the heck out of them because they're fantastic musicians. So
yeah,
I
love Rush. Don't you dare.
You do. So it was a good run Around the Horn. So that's where we're gonna wrap this thing up for today. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna be here on Monday because of Memorial Day. So we'll be back on Tuesday. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing for this holiday weekend, just be safe and enjoy it. And we'll be back next week with some fresh new episodes for everybody. So thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. It's the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys next week where you're going to make it through another weekend where Sidney Crosby's that much closer to being with the Colorado Avalanche.
Got eliminated by Denmark.
Oh.